When creating a website, we usually want it to look the same on all platforms. And one thing that is usually a little bit problematic is how can we then style the checkboxes and the radio buttons, but the principle is the same for both of them. So let's take a look at how to do this one. But first of all, this is a standard checkbox in Chrome. And now if I would like to have this a little bit bigger, well, how can I achieve that? I have the style checkbox class here. So let's go for that one. And let's increase the width and height to 3 ems. And yes, it looks nice and big. So that was nice. If we take a peek at other browsers, if we go to Microsoft Edge, well, it's also take the width and height, but here it is gray. So here we have one change. So maybe we can change this one into the blue color in some way. Is that possible? Well, let's see later on. Let's move on to Firefox. And this one, Firefox, also has a big blue checkbox when it is selected. And then let's move on to Safari. And this one has still a really small checkbox here. And the reason for that is that Safari uses the standard built into the system checkbox. So it is fairly hard to, and whatever you write here, it will not make any changes unless you add a specific attribute. And to add that attribute, well, what we need to do is that we need to set the appearance attribute, and we set that to none. This means that wipe away all styling that you get from the browser, and now I would like to add my styling instead. Now we have the problem that now it disappeared totally. Well, because now it has no border, it has no nothing. So we need to set that back. So let's add a border, and let's say that we would like to have a 2-pixel solid gray, like this. Now we can see that it is back, and now we can actually add a border dash radius of 0.5 ems maybe. Is that too much? No? Now we have a little bit softer button down here. Let's continue with this one. I have a class of style1 also on this one because I would like to reuse this one that is the base when we move on and create some more fancy checkboxes later on. So the problem now is that when I click on this one, I have no selected state. And the problem is that I haven't done any selected state here. So I need to set that one also. So let's go for the style1. And there is a selector that is called checked that goes into its working when we have the checkbox checked. So when the state is checked, this one will kick in. So now let's just set the background color of, and it should be color of pink, like this. And now you can see that now I have something that I can actually select and I can deselect it. And now I can set whatever color I like. And just to show you this one, if I copy this one and go back to Firefox and paste it in here, and now this one, of course, now I don't have the style1 class for this one. So now you can see that it looks exactly the same, and it will, let's go to Edge, and let's add the style1 here also, and let's select all of this and paste, and now we have the same. So now they look the same in all browsers. So now when we know what we can do here with this one, well, now there is nothing stopping us from going totally crazy with this one, or doing something even more fancy. And I'm going to show some examples here that I have created, and they are also listed in the, you can find this in the description below. So what I've done here is that I have set up kind of the same as I had here. I set the appearance to none. I have a 2 pixel solid green in this case, and I set up a background, the width and height, and I also set up a transition, and I will come back to this later. So this is kind of the same. Then for the style 1 shaped, I set up a box shadow. And as you can see, I'm using 2 box shadows, and that is because I would like to have a first lighter green, and then I would like to have the color kind of centered in this one. So that means that when I click on this one, when it's not selected, it looks like this, and when it is selected, it looks like that. And you can also see that I have this kind of animation in here because I set the transition to go on all attributes. So the second one, well, here I've done something else. I made this a lot wider, like this, and I also set up the position relative on this one. That is because I would like to create this red dot within this one, and I do it with the pseudo selector. So I use the after, and I add a position of absolute for this one, so I can position this wherever I want it exactly. I'll set the background color for that one to dark red, and I set the width and height, and this is the width and height for the red button. And then I also move it just 1 pixel because it needed that to get a little bit, I thought it was a little bit nicer. Then I set a slightly longer transition for this one. It will probably not be noticeable, but well, it's me. And then I set the border radius to 50% to make it fully circle. And then when it is checked, I change the background for this one, so it turns into a greenish color. And then I also change the after. I do a translation on this one, 3 M's, and that means that it will move to the right, and then I change the background from this red to the green. That means when I click on this one, it will slide over, and now we have done something that looks a lot like the iOS on-off toggle. And in the last one, I have created something that is a little bit more advanced. I changed the color to orange, and again the position to relative, because I would like to position 2 things absolutely in this one. When it is checked, I change the background to dark orange, and then I add a box shadow like this, just to make it a little bit more indented. If we just do like this and comment away the rest, and then I click on this one, you will see that I have the box shadow coming in, so it feels like we kind of press it. So then here I used both the before and the after, and what I'm doing here is that I'm just creating 2 small lines. And to show you this, if we do like this first and we comment away the rest here, the before, and then I change the scale back to 1. You see that I have a line up here. So I have translated that to move it where I think it should be, and then I now also rotated it so it goes in the correct direction. And then I actually set the scale to 0. Because that means that when it is not selected, well, it has a scale of 0, so it doesn't show up at all. So now when I remove this one, you can see that I have my full mark here, and the other one is done kind of in the same way but with after. And then I also set up a transition delay, so I get one line first and then the other line, and then when it goes away I reset the transition delay. So now in the first run, when it comes up, well, then it is the first short line that shows up first, but that should also go away last. So I fiddled around with this one, and then I arrived at this one. And again, you can find this code, the link to this CodePen, in the description below.